Hey guys, welcome back to Monday Night Mythbusters. We are very pleased to be back in front of the camera and talking to you guys. I am Dr. Carolyn George from Vita Integrative Medicine and Leslie Harrington, Transformational Coach.
Hello guys, good evening. Sorry we're a little late.
Yeah, we're trying to organize some of our IT, and we're not such IT people.
We're gonna get there someday.
Yeah, we'll get there someday. Maybe. I don't think I have that gene, but anyways. So hey there, Marianne.
Hi, Marianne.
Welcome, everybody. So tonight we're going to be talking about the different chemicals that are in your food and what you might want to be learning about those chemicals and what things you should be watching out for. So if you guys have any questions, feel free, of course, as always, to punch them in.
Yes, definitely engage tonight. We really want to hear your opinion on this stuff, and if there's things that you know, feel free to throw them in there.
Right, absolutely. So let's start off with, we'll give it another minute for a couple other people to join up, but we're going to be talking about, in particular, there's one book that you found that's really been quite interesting.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, as most of you know, and I hear a lot of people when they write something, they're interviewed about the book, and this just like grabbed my attention. I'm familiar with the person, the author of the book, and you might be too. She's got kind of a bad rap historically as like a food blogger that was kind of causing some rifts in the industry and saying things that people were trying to invalidate and things like that. But the book is called Feeding You Lies, and it's by a girl named Vani Hari, and it's how to unravel the food industry's playbook and reclaim your health. It's extremely praised by like some really pretty significant people in the industry. Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Frank Lipton. Dr. Mark Hyman says, if you eat, read this book, right? So we all eat, I think we can all agree. And, a lot of, I think the people that we probably work with, this may not, it's good information to share with people that you love and know, because you might be kind of walking the straight and narrow and doing really helpful things, because if you're tuning in, you probably heard us preach a lot.
Right.
But this is information that helps other people to understand why maybe you're making some of the choices that you're making and you're not eating things that are, processed or fast food and things like that.
So what a lot of people don't quite understand, and I think she's really tries to help you understand, and a lot of the other writing, not just her book, a lot of other books, is that the food industry is all about trying to make us eat what they're preparing. So they want to make it something that we're going to choose again. So that's why they add the sugar, they add the salt, they add the fats. They actually have perfumers, like people that work on perfumes and smells, working with them to try to make things smell in such a way that it activates certain parts of our brain, so it brings back childhood memories. We associate it with good things. They're really working all the parts of our brain to get us so that when we're in the grocery store, that we're choosing their item over everybody else's item. So it's not only the packaging, it's not only the location. Is it an end item? Is it on the shelves? Is it high up? Is it low? But they're also really working with the flavors, the smells, the tastes, and the chemicals that make all those things in our food.
Yeah, and the chemicals are going to also have that type of influence on your brain. They're going to make you want to crave more. There's things that they're actually studying, the things that are lighting up certain areas of your brain that creates more cravings.
They have a lot of people, very like PhDs, people with very well trained to looking at what kind of hits those opiate receptors in your brain to make you go, oh yeah, I want more of that, right?
And they're driven primarily financially, right? So they're looking for their bottom line. They're driven for being able to cost cut, and they're being able to kind of preserve and make things last longer. And then, of course, to be able to use whatever they're using in their cooking practices further, so being able to get longer life out of cooking oils, for instance, or things like that. So there's all kinds of reasons that are driving them,
right,
primarily financial. But what we want to kind of take a few steps back is understand how that plays a role in manipulating our minds, and how we as consumers are kind of falling for some of these things. That the minute that something happens in health and wellness and people, it becomes a popular topic, the big food companies jump on it. They grab it, they run with it, and they take it to a whole different extreme. So like the gluten-free market, the 100-calorie snack packs, the things that they know that the health space is trying to focus on, they're going to go after that consumer and say, okay, I'm going to make this look really healthy. How do they do that? Through various means, including having people that, like Coca-Cola is not going to come out and say, I just published a study that Coca-Cola is the best thing in the world. They're going to have a third party come out and preach about how great Coca-Cola is, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to be paying someone and pretending that someone's an independent that's saying it on their own,
right? Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's different levels of people in the organizations that are either paid directly, paid indirectly, or they pretend that they're an independent. And there's ways now that with the Information Act, the Freedom of Information, there's actual like email exchanges. In this book, it's really cool. I do highly recommend the book. Email exchanges between different companies, including Monsanto, and specific messages that they were trying to get across, and connections between different people that are out there, you know, basically causing like smear campaigns against activists and things like that. So this girl gets a lot of flack, but she's also made a very big impact on the industry in the way, so she helped create changes through mostly petition type things and just being a voice out there, but through Kraft Mac and Cheese, General Mills, Mars, Hershey's, Nestle's, Kellogg's, Subway, Panera Bread, and she was really behind the Chipotle going with the all non-GMO ingredients. Yeah. So those are really big companies, and she was part of those crusades.
And so, like, one of the crusades that she did, and we don't want to just be talking about her book, but this is kind of like gives you an idea. But Hershey's and Kellogg's and what was the other one?
General Mills.
General Mills, yeah. So they have a lot of artificial colors in their foods, and those artificial colors have been pretty consistently found to be related to hyperactivity and some other negative side effects. So she was very pivotal in trying to remove them from the food, and she pointed out the fact that these companies make a completely different product for us in North America than they do in Britain or Europe, where they also sell their products, right? But they sell them that are much cleaner because those governments do not allow those kinds of chemicals to be put in the food because they're not adding any nutritive substance. They are for coloring, for taste, for longevity, that type of thing. Not longevity of us, but longevity of the shelf life of the food. So she was really pivotal in that marketing, or not the marketing and petitioning, so that they were taking out a lot of these additives.
Yeah, they don't like the attention, and they don't like the truth being put out there, right? So they did finally start to make movement. And what's interesting to Dr. George's part is, with the UK and not allowing certain things, there's actually France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Greece, and Luxembourg do not allow it. They're banned on the cultivation and sales of GMOs. So there's other countries that don't even allow GMOs at all. And GMOs we talk about a lot throughout this, and a lot of people, is there anyone out there that knows what GMO is or doesn't know what GMO is, and really what it really means to us and why it should be something that we're concerned about? So if there's people out there, I feel like we should highlight and just touch on GMOs and why.
So give us a thumbs up if you want us to just spend a few minutes, 5 minutes on GMOs, and then we can decide. In the meantime, while you're letting us know, we can talk about some of the other things here.
So when we talked about the chemicals in different countries, so there's 4 ingredients in McDonald's, specifically McDonald's French fries in the UK. It's potatoes, oil, dextrose, and salt. There's 19 ingredients in the United States, one of which is actually a primary ingredient that's found in silly putty. And it's a agent that prevents it from foaming, and it actually preserves the oil to be able to, use that oil repeatedly as they're dipping the fries. So that one was pretty mind blowing to me.
Right.
Kraft macaroni and cheese was one of the big things that she crusaded for and has since made the impact. But Kraft mac and cheese over in the UK has paprika beta carotene to give it that orange color. Whereas here, you've got yellow number 5 and yellow number 6, again, chemicals that are impactful to kids and hyperactivity.
Right.
So why are we putting that type of thing in our food and allowing our society to be poisoned by some of this stuff, and potentially poisoned, right? We don't know we're guinea pigs.
Right.
But then in other countries, like even the oatmeal that you get with the little fruits, the stuff in the States is actually not the fruit that's represented on the label. It's not even
blueberries are not blueberries.
Yeah, it's like some flavor agent, you know, and so when you're talking about artificial flavors and artificial ingredients, those have like, it's kind of like fragrance that we talk about in skincare. There's a lot of things that could possibly fall within that that really makes it a big deal. So the oats and fruit, the ketchup over there, all GMO ingredients in the US, none in other states. And then I was going to move on to the Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but let's jump back because Robin asked about GMO and organic, and that's a great question because that's specific.
And Lisa had also asked the name of the book, and it's Feeding You Lies by
Vani Hardy. On the actual organic stuff, the thing with organic is that organic kind of covers your bases. So there's nothing, organic doesn't allow for GMO type of ingredients or processes. So you're almost always in a better place knowing that something's organic. When something's just stated as non-GMO, there's an importance to that, and that is something that you should consider, but it doesn't mean that there's not other factors that would be impactful to us that are not organic. So organic's going to kind of give you that over the top. So this is why. So organic can't be grown with any synthetic pesticides. So when we talk about non-GMO crops, they can still have pesticides. Just because they're non-GMO, they can still be, they don't have special restrictions for that. So I know a lot of people think when you eat non-GMO, oh, I don't have pesticide exposure, and that's not the case.
Maybe not as much. Not as much, yeah. Because one of the main uses of GMO in much of our food, not all of it, is to allow glyphosate or Roundup to be sprayed so that it doesn't kill the plant while you're killing the weeds around it. So they've made it resistant to that glyphosate, which originally was meant to mean that you're going to use less because they wouldn't have to spray so much. It would kill all the weeds and life would be good, and then everybody was going to be ahead of the game. There was going to be more produce. You're going to use less pesticides. There's going to be less danger to everybody. But the reality was that the weeds became a little bit more tolerant to this pesticide, or herbicide rather, and so then they spray a little bit more herbicide, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, and now everything that is GMO in terms of like soybean and some of these crops, they can then spray very liberally the glyphosate on it because it's not killing the plant, but they have to spray a lot on it to kill the weeds. So you're getting way more of this glyphosate, which is an endocrine disruptor and a possible carcinogenic. It's been decided by the World Health Organization. So we're getting a lot of that on our food, and I know they just had a big announcement a couple weeks ago. Cheerios has got just record high amounts of the glyphosate.
The wheat fields?
Well, yeah, so from the wheat, because they also spray glyphosate on our wheat as it's finishing up in the towers as they kind of dry it out. They spray it with glyphosate. So this is a chemical that they're putting on all kinds of plants with the original intention of trying to have a bigger harvest and feed more people, which is very laudable, but it's not really doing that, and it's then increasing our exposure to these things.
Similar to that, there's hexane is another chemical that's not restricted in non-GMO, but it would be covered under organic. And then also conventional non-GMO biosolids. Yeah. So some of the treated water that we have from our sewage system,
aka poop.
Yeah, sewage. Yeah. Is basically those are still potentially exposed in non-GMO. Same with antibiotics. So you don't have kind of that same really general protection, I guess, if you say that organic would offer. I mean, organic's not perfect and by any means, but as far as a differential and how they're distinguished.
Right. So organic, you're really trying to use just things that we've used for hundreds of years. You might use some natural chemicals you might use as your fertilizer, the poop from the cows on the field. You're going to use the more natural, less synthetic. You can't use anything really synthetic in an organic food. And if there are animals, then you're not able to use any antibiotics. You're stopping any kind of the hormones, that type of thing. So you're really trying to get a closer to nature version of the product, which doesn't mean it is like it was 200 years ago, because there are so many of these pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics in our water supply, And an organic farm can be right next to a conventional farm, in which case you're getting the breeze is bringing it over, the water supply is bringing it over, but it should mean that you're getting less.
Yeah.
So it, again, not perfect, and there are some people who would try to thwart the idea of being organic and say that they are when they're not really.
On the flip side of that, you might get some local farmers that are
doing
like
a
farmers
great
market
job.
who
Yeah.
are actually producing and using organic, but they haven't paid the money it takes to get that stamp on there.
Right.
So you might go to some local farmers markets and they are actually
Yes, so
organic has to be GMO.
Yeah.
Yes.
GMO does not have to be organic. Organic has to be GMO.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then on the same thing, I want to touch on really quick that the FDA I think we think that everything that comes through, the FDA was granted the authority to start to look at chemicals back in 1958. And when they started doing,
Actually,
58, that's when Congress gave them authority.
Right.
Now, the thing is that there was only about 800 artificial products at the time, or chemicals, and now there's upwards of 10,000. So now they're dealing with a lot more, and they're not really getting to this stuff, and they're putting it back on the manufacturers of certain foods to basically have a third party say that their food is safe. And they can or cannot submit that third party report to the FDA, and the FDA can question it if they do submit it, and if they pull it back, they can still put it in their food. So we just need to understand that the FDA uses a system what they call generally recognized as safe. So you'll see the GRAS, G-R-A-S.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that the product has been approved, it's been tested, it's been whatnot. It's just on that list, right? So just so you're aware that some of these things, you've just got to be aware that they're not over there putting their stamp of approval on everything. It's not quite happening that way, which ideally it would be, right? They're allowing and then pulling back later. So in that, they're taking back 6 artificial these are artificial flavors are being banned from the market in the next 2 years, just like they banned trans fat, which we'll get into that. This is them saying oopsie later,
Right.
So now it's like, oh wait, now we got to pull this out, just like with trans fat. So being aware that we're kind of guinea pigs right here, right now.
So these 6 artificial flavors they have designated that need to be removed over the next 2 years, but they're still in our food, and we don't know what foods they're in. We know what chemicals they are, but on the ingredients, you're going to see artificial flavor. You're not going to see specifically that ingredient.
And these ingredients are actually known to cause cancer, and that's why they're being banned. So for the next 2 years, we could potentially be eating some of this stuff, which are all things we can't even pronounce, right?
We can try.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you'll be better at this than me.
benzophenone, ethyl acrylate, and the acrylates are in general those things that when you burn something, so burnt things are not good for you. Don't burn. When you're barbecuing, try not to burn. Eugenyl methyl ether, myrcene,
They're getting harder.
pulegon, and pyridine. So
You probably won't see them on a label.
you won't see them artificial flavors. So where you can, who there, hand up or thumbs up, who there is reading labels when you go shopping consistently?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, if it's not for your family, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know my family, my parents, whatever, my dad had labeled stuff all day long, and it was like we do the best that we can, right?
Yeah.
But this is really good information to share. But it's also if you're reading labels for someone else in your family, especially kids. A lot of people are eating a lot more packaged foods with their children, and it's a really big it's a big problem.
So when you are reading those labels, so you're looking to avoid certain things. Yay, we got some people thumbs up.
Yes.
So you want to avoid the artificial flavors. You want to avoid things that are multisyllabic that you can't pronounce, that don't sound like they've ever been in any foods. But you also want to look, because they have made a statement that you can put on the package that there's no trans fats, but there is still trans fats in it as long as it's under a certain percentage, and they'll often call it by different names. So you want to look for those polyunsaturated fats, or monoglycerides. So monoglycerides can also be a trans fat. So generally they have to put them though in the ingredients. So you really want to be reading those ingredients. And if you can, just try to get things that have just simple ingredients, things that you recognize, or no ingredients, no packaging, just buy them from the outside of the grocery store.
Yep,
You know, your
shop.
deli, your fresh fruits and vegetables you're getting from the outside. Anything that's packaged, they have tried to manipulate in such a way to make you buy more.
And to make it last longer.
And
So
make it
they're going to
last
have a
longer.
higher shelf life. And what a couple other examples of those. So Sargento shredded cheese. On the front it says it's off the block, and you imagine this Italian person, you know, shaving your cheese. And
right?
and what happens is you look at the back and you see that there's cellulose in a lot of the different cheeses, and cellulose is a byproduct of wood.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's
fun.
in a lot of our products. So
It's a filler.
you're thinking that, you know, it messes with your microbiome. It can really like start to shake up some of the natural processes in your body, but you think you're eating something healthy because they're putting they have this image in your mind, and you're actually not, right? Fortifying, you'll see on a lot of cereals, a lot of different types of, these are fortified with vitamin A and vitamin C and things like that. And it's fortified because there's nothing of value in it to begin with. So they're either sucking out what was there in the processing, and they're killing any vitamin potential. So then they're putting it back in. And putting it back in, you don't know what they're putting back in. It's obviously a synthetic form of a vitamin, and it may not be the amount that would be appropriate for any kids or adults.
Right.
So making sure, and just because something has an added vitamin doesn't mean cereal should be the way you start your day because it's got vitamin A and C. You know, but why not? Well, why not? Because the American Heart Association, if we can jump over to that, has this little heart check. I don't know if you guys have noticed when you go to the store, there's certain things that say, they have the American Heart Association check. So that is something that is paid for. And there are definitely criteria.
By the marketing companies to the American Heart
Association.
Association.
And there are criteria that they follow, and it has nothing to do with sugar, because most of those, back before, I think it was within the last few years, they used to have the check on Trix, Cocoa Puffs, and Lucky Charms. They are no longer on those. I can't imagine why. But now if you look, you'll see plenty of healthy foods on there also, but then you'll see that there's a lot of foods that still have a significant amount of sugar, a lot of chemicals, artificial sweeteners, things like that. So that American Heart Association check is not something that I would base your decision making for when you're buying your food. Right.
The AHA is going to come after us after that one.
Yeah, and then I think understanding too, like how do those studies come about when it comes to like you'll hear on the news, cereals are going to make your kids fit. Well, studies like that, as she explains in the book, like and you got to understand who's driving the funding for the study, because normally that's not like the evident thing. Like I said, Coca-Cola is not going to do a study on sugar and how bad it is for you, right? They're going to do something to explain why that you should be drinking their stuff. So with Kellogg's, they'll fund a study and they'll find out all the reasons why they think something's going to make their kid fit. And it might be because it's fortified, or it might be because the American Heart Check seal on it. But they're not going to talk about all the reasons why it's disruptive to the kids, right? They're going to pull out that data, and they're going to pay the person that ran the data and the research that they funded, and they're going to pull out from that what their message they want to relay. So something that's going to further their agenda, and then all of a sudden it's going to go to press because they've claimed this is what came out of that study, and now cereal makes your kid lose weight. That's how it happens. That's how it starts. And that's just one example.
Pick and choose. Yep. It goes on over and over and over and over again. Let's see, what else did we not touch on? Does anybody have any questions? So I think the key take-homes are that anything that's in a package, if it says natural, it's not. If it says healthy, it's probably not, because it's in a package. And if it's in a package, they've adulterated it some way. They have stripped out the real good nutrients that nature put in there and fortified it with something, or added artificial flavors, colorings, whatever, so that you will buy it, so it will last longer, so it will be pretty color, so so that they can make more for their shareholders. So you want to be really kind of on top of that, and first try not to shop inside the stores, try to shop the perimeter, the outside, and then if you do buy something that's packaged, read the ingredients and read them
Yes.
carefully, and just be very thoughtful and choose carefully.
Yeah, and I think it's, these companies will go to all extremes to prevent like the truth about their ingredients and their labels from coming out. And the way that they do that, you might see a post by somebody that's encouraging a fact or a truth that these companies don't want, and they actually hire people that will go in and they just sit and search sites and activists, and they just go on these,
Try to trash
they
them.
try to trash them. So you'll see, if you're on social media, you might see these people that are saying things that sometimes come across as just plain out ignorant. And they're typically the ones that are being paid by these companies. They'll actually go and manipulate Wikipedia pages to try to discredit activists and different people that are making big change. So understand that. And Lisa asked about disguised MSG. So of course there's a lot of different ingredients that are
names,
that are gonna try to, it's like there's a list of sugar that is like, I don't know, 60 different names for sugar. It's like ridiculous.
Pretty close, yeah. So they're going to call it different things so that you're not on top of it. The minute you learn all the kind of common names, they're going to call it something different so that you'll continue to buy their product, right? It would seem to be much easier to make the product better, but I think it's less money maybe just to change the name.
Yeah, and like we said in the beginning, there are some companies that are taking the initiative and they are going to remove some of the artificial dyes.
Right.
I mean, I love the paprika thing.
Your feet, how you spend your grocery dollar really, really is way more powerful, I think, than almost how you vote, because they really care about how you spend your money. And if you don't buy something, they stop making it. If you say that you're not buying it because of a certain reason and you go to a different product that is doing what you want, they're going to mimic that.
Yes.
So you have a great amount of power with what you buy.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you asked about the MSG too. In the book, there's a whole glossary in the back. I mean, it's pages, and it tells exactly every chemical you can imagine, what types of foods that they're found in.
Yeah.
So it's a great read. I think these are just the highlights of some of the things that are important to know as a consumer.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for joining us again. We will not be here in May. I've got a lot of traveling going on, so I won't be here in May, but it was
June 24th.
June 24th is our next day for our Monday Night Mythbusters, and we're, if you didn't watch last time, we are switching to a once a month schedule so that we have a little time to do some traveling over the summer, and we're coming up with new things, and we're going to be doing some things in the office, so we're going to be bringing in some things locally. So we want to keep you engaged. If you have other ideas, topics you'd like us to talk about, things you'd like us to bring to the office, we're all ears. We'd love to hear about it. And I will be opening up next week my iVita Nutrient Infusion section of my office, where we're going to be doing IV infusions. And we've got our new Vibe bed, which is our bioharmonic bed that you lay on and it vibrates and you have these really cool experiences. And then I've got an Alpha Stim, which helps it's FDA approved, for anxiety, depression, and pain.
Yes.
And
super exciting.
Yeah,
so if you guys haven't watched our experience at the Upgrade Labs, it's pretty cool. Go back and watch that one. But then you'll see some of the devices that we brought in. We can do Facebook Lives, I think, of people maybe doing
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And we'll probably tune in next week during the
maybe
grand opening. I'll walk around with my phone or whatever.
Okay. So yeah,
Me.
Looking forward to checking in with you. Thank you, Lisa.
Water filters for sure. Water is a great topic. Not just water filter, but water drinking. We did. Yeah, we can do a water master class again.
Yeah, we can do another one. We do have some stuff on water though, Lisa, just so you know. If you go to my YouTube channel, there are some old ones, and I think we did it about 8 months or so
It was
ago.
early on, yeah. So it's under Read It Integrative on YouTube.
Yep, so it will be there. Thank you guys. Please go ahead and share this with anybody that you think might be benefiting from this kind of information or interested in it. And as always, watch out for your friends, your family, and we look forward to helping you in that endeavor. So have a great night, guys.
Have a great night. Thanks for coming out.
See you next month.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.